So you've seen this slide a couple of times already today. I'm just going to reiterate what it means. Boyers 4 scholarships, and then leadership and citizenship. So the scholarship of discovery is what we might traditionally think of as research, so the creation of new knowledge. The scholarship of integration, probably best thought of as something that happens within the university sector. So how you integrate research activities with teaching, for example. The scholarship of teaching, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail shortly. The scholarship of application, again, probably best thought about as something which happens with partners outside of the university sector. So how you apply what you do with a corporate partner, for example. And then leadership and citizenship. Now, my colleagues Mariella and Leslie will go through all of those other criteria in way more detail, and I'll talk about the scholarship of teaching. I will again reiterate that you don't need to score points in every category. So to get to B or C, 8 points across any of the categories with at least 1 from leadership, and importantly, at least 1 outstanding. And then for D and E, 9 points with at least 2 in leadership and at least 1 outstanding. So we certainly have been asked questions around the last round of promotions, whether people actually got promoted without points in any particular category. And I think the uncategorical answer was yes, they did. So did the policy work as intended everywhere? Maybe not. Maybe there's still some learning and some training for both committees and applicants. But certainly the intent of the policy has been taken up, and we're confident that this time round it will be taken up even better. So again, emphasise the intent of the policy is that you do not need to have points in every category. It really is designed to ensure that the reality of a modern 21st century academic is reflected in the promotion opportunity. So, in that context, how does it work? So in each of those categories, you need to self-assess. You need to decide into which category you hope to achieve points, and then how many points in each of those categories you wish to allocate to yourself. The challenge, of course, is that your self-assessment has to be realistic, and it has to be done in a way that the committee will align with and agree with. So it has to be evidence-based. It has to be done in a way that is sustainable and supportable by the evidence that you can provide. So the other thing to remember is in the documents there are indicators of examples of criteria. Be very clear that those examples are indicative only. There are discipline specificities which we're actually absolutely aware of, and there are individual circumstances which we're absolutely aware of. Certainly encourage colleagues to talk to their discipline leads, their heads of department, to ensure that the allocations and the approach that they're taking is appropriate for the head of department. Now, we do know that some departments have quite complex and diverse disciplines. I know my home department of media encompasses 3 or 4 disciplines. It is absolutely worth clarifying with your head of department the expectation and the reality of what you want to put down in your criteria. So, in terms of the 0, 1, 2, 3 points, as I was saying, there is no hard definition there. It's something that you're going to have to make a judgment call about, and again, importantly, need to provide the evidence to support your judgment in your discipline. Okay? So we get to teaching. And the question that is often asked of me is, you know what, Sherman? It's pretty easy to judge research. You know, you got publications, you got grants, you got H indexes, tick, 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 number, easy. Although Leslie may disagree, but that's kind of the meme which goes around. But how do you actually articulate that you're actually an excellent teacher? And I think that it's actually really quite straightforward. What you're doing as an excellent teacher is designing and delivering an experience that results in great student outcomes. And articulating that And providing evidence of that is really what the case for teaching is about. I do want to emphasise, though, that it won't succeed if all you do is say, I think I'm good at this because I did this, and I think I'm good at that because I did that. The evidence that you provide needs to be from other parties. So it may be from students, it may be from peers, it may be from recognition from third parties. So if you think about, for example, those criteria which are in the policy, development of curriculum or learning environment and innovation, you can very clearly make an argument that you've achieved excellence in that if you have evidence of developing curriculum and can show from the student outcomes that that curriculum development has had some impact. You can very clearly show that student outcomes have improved if you can see an increase in pass rates, in achievement rates, in student feedback about the impact of that curriculum. You can certainly include peer and student quality feedback. We all have mechanisms like the TED surveys, the LEUs and the LETs, and more than that, I know that many faculties have quite formal peer review processes, and we expect some engagement in those peer review processes and some articulation of the outcomes of those peer review processes as part of this application. A reflective engagement with that feedback is something that is quite straightforward to provide. And we've now implemented, and some of you may have already engaged with the Higher Education Academy. So we have a process now for professional development recognition, which is external to the university and provides a very straightforward way to provide evidence of professional development and accreditation. So that's one example of doing it. You may, within your discipline, have a teaching and evaluation process that you can use as an articulation of evidence of professional development. You may have it within your department, some specific courses, and of course the university itself runs professional development courses as well. And then finally, engagement with the scholarship of learning and teaching is something which we hope would underpin what you do in the design and delivery of your curriculum and learning experiences. And being able to articulate through references to the literature or to exemplars is a fairly straightforward way of demonstrating your engagement with that scholarship. So just to provide some examples, if what you did was fulfil your teaching workload and provided good learning outcomes for your students, demonstrated by sufficient pass rates and good feedback from students, then that's probably an achieved. If you can demonstrate some innovation and collaboration, if, for example, you have implemented a new learning analytics system in iLearn which allows you to intervene with students at risk and you can demonstrate that that's increased the student retention rate, then that's an example perhaps of superior. If you have outstanding student outcomes, if you consistently have students who achieve university medals, if you have created an innovation in your learning and teaching, maybe with technology, maybe just in an active learning approach that you've taken, that you have persuaded others in the university to take up, and maybe you've been recognised by a university level teaching award, then that might be an example of outstanding. Now certainly the levels at which you wish to be promoted, C, D and E, will have different aspects of that. We certainly wouldn't expect a level B to have an external teaching award for outstanding, for example. We'd probably have an expectation of a teaching award at a departmental level. So the different levels that you apply at have an impact on where those criteria lie for achieved, superior or outstanding. So that's a brief overview of the teaching. I'm happy to take some questions for a few minutes at this point, if anyone has any. I love no questions. All right, here we go.
Sorry to disturb the no questions. I just had a question about MRES in relation to teaching.
Yes.
I know on maybe seen as more research workload. But is MRes year 2, is it one of those ones we can argue to put it in teaching or research?
So this is one that Leslie and I might throw hospital passes to each other for. The MRes, technically, the first year is coursework and the second year is research. So you could almost make the technical argument, it depends which part of the MRes you're engaged with. Certainly, I think that a committee would be understanding of using the MRes in either, depending on which particular aspect of the MRes you're engaging with. Does that help answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Leslie, did you want to add anything to that? Okay. Yes?
And so, aligned with that question then, internship is students that do research, or that's teaching, you're supervising students of last year?
So I would expect that if you were providing an internship education through a PACE unit, for example, at undergraduate level, that would be teaching. You might also make the argument, for example, say you ran a large internship unit which placed 300 students with companies in third year, good on you, then there's a level of application. So there's an argument that you could make around application. You've certainly, if you're doing that scale of internship, there's certainly deep engagement with corporate partners. There's opportunities that you're identifying and engaging with. That would be a case for points in application as well. Yes, Nicole.
Chairman, if you've achieved some of these things but a long time ago, does that matter? And I guess where does publication, publishing in a scholarship of education in journals,
Yeah.
does that bit disappear anywhere?
Yeah. Look, I think to answer your second question first, I think the publication can be articulated in the scholarship of teaching. So you are engaging with the scholarship of teaching. Depending, and again, Leslie might have a view about this, depending on how you want to cast that publication, is if it's a key part of your research, then you might want to argue it in discovery. But I know that we all have, shall we say, a bifurcated approach to publications if we are in the education space, and we may have a primary research area that we wish to focus on for discovery. So it could certainly supplant and supplement your scholarship of teaching area. In terms of timeframes, my understanding is it doesn't matter if you've done it.
Just since the last promotion.
Since the last promotion. There you go. At the back there, yep.
I was wondering,
Julian.
Teaching, how would postgraduate qualifications in learning teaching fit into that?
That would be in professional development and recognition. So if you've got a master's in higher education development, well done. Excellent. Well, certainly if there are any further questions around the scholarship of teaching, you know where to find me, shoot me an email, happy to respond. At this point, I think it's Mariella, Leslie, or do you want to go back, Nicole? Don't fight over it. Okay, thank you all.